Well, hello everyone out there in the Head Couch Analyst world. I am your host, Sanders, of the Head Couch Analyst Show, and as normal, I'm joined by my buddy Pardue. Let's just jump right into Birdwatch. We both had a great weekend. How you feeling? You're probably feeling better because you're undefeated, right?
You know what? So, I'm still tempering expectations. I know you see me on the TL all hype and everything, and I'm really excited about how the Cardinals are playing, but we were 2-0 at this time last year. We were undefeated at this time last year. And I know I think the statistic is 64% of the time when a team starts 2-0, you make the playoffs. And
drop
we all
the
saw
dud against Carolina the next week.
Right. So I'm tempering expectations, but it's a good start. And, playing the Jags this week, we have a good chance at 3-0. And I think being 3-0 heading into the Rams game, a team that we haven't beaten in 4 years, it would be a pretty big deal. So, you know what? Still tempering expectations, but, it's a good start. Kyler's looking really good. The defense outside the first half of the Vikings game, they've played a really, really strong 6 quarters. So far, I'm really excited about what I've seen by the Cardinals. It's a long way to go, but, not a lot of complaints.
Yeah. When it comes to that game overall, I think what was impressive was, the grit the team showed in a game where, the defense, let's be honest, didn't actually show up in the ground game. And I think both Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson did their jobs. Neither of them popped off for over 100 yards, but both went for over 70, right?
Mm-hmm. Both scored touchdowns, too.
Yes, right? So it wasn't the whole... I hate it because I was going to call out the account, but his account got suspended for I don't know what reason. But the guy who said, oh, they're going to be bums, I wanted to retweet it and be like, still waiting for them to be bums, but I couldn't because when I looked it up, it's like this count is suspended, and I was like, bummer. But yeah, so it's not, Thielen and Jefferson didn't, set the secondary on fire, right? But they did their job. And Dalvin Cook just straight up was a nightmare for them, so,
He gave me nightmares.
So Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt did not have a repeat performance from last week, and that's okay because Kyler Murray took everything into his own hands. 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ugh, love this man. Always have loved this man. Ever since, what was it, I think week 6 of his rookie year when I texted you and I'm like, I think you got your quarterback or something like that. I still remember you were like, nope, don't tell me that. Scarred Cardinals fans not knowing when their franchise quarterback is there. Classic. I'm not blaming you, by the way. I totally can see how you felt that way because you've seen many guys show potential and then be duds.
Right.
But Kyler Murray is I think he's always had the it factor being in the NFL from his rookie season to now. Obviously, he made a lot of mistakes back then, and he still makes them now, and that's what I wanted to talk about. I tend to be, I'll admit it, pretty biased towards Kyler Murray. He's my second favorite quarterback in the NFL to watch, but behind 1A and 1B. And 1A and 1B are Patrick Mahomes, and of course 1B is my guy, Jackson. I can't not have him as my number one. But, Kyler is special in the sense of, how do I put this without, setting the timeline on fire? I think he's better at maneuvering the pocket than probably any other quarterback in the NFL. And I think that includes Lamar Jackson.
And that's what I think separates Kyler from everybody else is his ability. For example, that 77-yard touchdown that was thrown to Rondale Moore. For every other quarterback outside maybe Lamar in this league, that's a sack. Even Patrick Mahomes, nobody's escaping that. The edge rusher came completely unblocked, and he was able to run back, come all the way back to the other side of the field, on the run, make that throw. Now, maybe there's guys in this league that can make that throw, and maybe there's guys that can escape pressure in this league, but I don't think there's any guy that, as an individual, can escape from that pressure and make that throw on that same play. And the biggest difference I've seen from Kyler through 2 weeks so far this year is when he is leaving the pocket and when he is scrambling, he is not looking to run. He is looking to throw the ball. And I think that's going to be a big deal because it's going to keep him healthy, unlike last year. and it's going to explode those passing numbers. And when you still have the threat of his legs, it's so hard to stop.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about Kyler Murray's positives, but there you go. By the way, that throw I thought was very Hail Murray-esque, because it was literally like the same kind of angle, same kind of throw, moderately same distance, the way it worked out.
Just this time, Rondale was wide-ass open.
Yeah, and he wasn't in the end zone.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about like some things that I noticed about Kyler Murray, because I typically am always like, he's great this, he's great that. A lot of people are sleeping on him. I don't understand why people don't like him more, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about his negatives, but I'm talking about his negatives in a constructive way. I think Kyler Murray, and I'm not saying other quarterbacks don't have this issue, but I'm just talking Kyler Murray specifically only right now, because that's the game we're talking about, is Cardinals, Minnesota, for our bird watch. I think he has a tendency to know that when he's, and I've noticed he throws interceptions, I feel like when he's starting to sling it, when he's really starting to feel it, get his groove on, and I'm not saying he's overconfident, but I really feel like his confidence is there, and he's like, all right, this is where the receiver goes, this is where the ball goes,
nobody can touch it.
Hike,
right.
Throw it there, right? And then when he throws it there, there's a safety there that he should have seen to know that he shouldn't throw it there, right? But I think he's just going with the play, and he does it. Because all of his interceptions, for whatever reason, are grotesque. None of them appear to be like, oh, that interception shouldn't have happened, or oh, what a poor guy. No, they're just like, dude, what the fuck were you doing?
Right. And it's not like, oh, what a great play by the linebacker or the corner or the safety there.
No, it's like straight to him.
What are you looking at there? Now, the interception his second interception, I'm not going to fault him too much for. He was hit in the head as he threw, and there should have been a flag thrown, and that one should have been indicated. But the one to Nick Vigil, in the post-game press conference, he straight up said, he's like, yeah, I didn't think Nick Vigil had it in him to be able to get over and reach out for that ball. And like, all right, Kyler, these guys are professionals. You got to give them some credit here. I know you're hot shit. I know you're confident, and I love that. I love that about him. I love the gunslinger mentality. But he handed the Vikings a free 10 points. The game didn't need to be close. Go ahead.
No, like that's just mostly like what I noticed, like on film, is like a lot of his interceptions are just like, they're not even just like unfortunate interceptions. They're just like, bro, where were you throwing? Like, where were you looking? Like, if you watch like and I'm just watching from a film perspective, not his perspective, but like the guy was there nearly the whole play. So why is the ball being placed in that area? You know, and I'm not saying other quarterbacks don't do this, because others do, right? My quarterback does the same thing sometimes. So, you know, I can't say this is a Kyler Murray only problem, but it is still a problem that he has that I would like to see him grow out of. And he's only in his third year. And in his third year, he's balling out. He's doing enough to win games. You're willing to go through growing pains while he's doing that. So that was just what I took away from the Cardinals game, was mostly my view on how Kyler Murray played.
Right. So for me, so what I've noticed through the first 2 weeks of this season so far, it's not really concerning me yet. And it's not, so it's situational play calling with Cliff that is making me a little bit nervous right now. For example, let's look at the 4-minute drive where the Cardinals had the chance to put the game away and not give the ball back to the Vikings, where they ended up missing the field goal. Thank Lord. And you know what? Side note real quick. I don't want to hear any Cardinal fans saying, oh, it's lucky that we're 2-0, blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up. For how much bad luck the Cardinals have had, and for how many games we've lost on missed kicks or tied on missed kicks, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. We deserve some of that luck for once. So I'm taking 2-0. You don't apologize for winning in the NFL. At the end of the season, we look at the win totals for all the teams in their respective conferences, and you decide on who the playoffs. So 15, 16 weeks from now, when we're looking back, it's just going to be another W in the column. So I'm not going to be upset that we lost on a missed field goal. Anyway, besides the point, the Vikings shouldn't have even gotten the ball back to have a chance to kick that field goal. When we got the ball back there is absolutely zero. So the very first play was a QB scramble that Kyler took all the way to the perimeter on the left side and ended up running out of bounds. You gave a free timeout to the Vikings there in that situation. What the fuck? Next play, they throw an incompletion on a passing play. Again, hey, Cliff, what are we doing here? We need to run the clock. We need to make them spend their timeouts. Third play was a completion. Vikings burn a timeout, and you run a whole, 15 seconds off the clock there? I don't know the exact number, but you didn't run anything off the clock there. The first two plays of that drive, no matter how they go, need to be going to James Conner and Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds is averaging 5.5 yards per carry, but he only has 20 carries on the season. Now, James Conner, while he's only averaging 3.3 yards on the season, or per carry on the season, he's running hard. He's running harder than any running back I've seen run on this team since 2016 David Johnson. And I know it's 2 weeks, but that's what I've seen. And we bolstered our offensive line and brought in Rodney Hudson for situations like this. We brought in James Conner for situations like this in the 4-minute, in 2-minute when we're trying to close out a game. Put the rock in their hands and let them run it. Now, it's not like Cliff is calling pass plays at an exponential rate over run plays. It's still pretty even. It's still been a balanced offense. It's just when the Cardinals are running that I'm scratching my head at. And that's something I need to see Cliff improve on because you had a chance to put that away. So the first two plays of that drive should have been runs to James or Chase. And then you evaluate where you're at on third down and then go from there. And then if you want to pass it there to pick up a first, okay, that's different. But you got to run the clock and make the bird timeout. So the play calling there was extremely, extremely frustrating. That's just some shit that Cliff's got to fix. And maybe, who knows, for all we know, Kyler checked out of those plays. And maybe Kyler's been checking out of run plays in run-down situations in the first place. And I know you don't want to be predictable with your running game in the NFL. You don't want to always run in run-down situations. But I want to see the Cardinals do it more because this rushing attack has shown the ability, we saw it last year, to be very, very potent. And when you're combining it with Kyler's legs and what they're doing in the passing game, because I get it. I would want to call a passing play every play right now, too, with the way the weapons are playing right now for Kyler and with the way Kyler's throwing the football. Hell yeah, I want to put it in their hands every play. But we gotta be better and focus more on run-down situations and be better about
football.
Right. We got to be better with situational football. So that was my biggest takeaway from the game. Honestly, and a lot of people were concerned about the defense, and now in the first half, yes, it was very, very, very bad. And I'm not ever going to be, I'm not going to say that. I'm not typically going to be the guy to blame refs because it comes down to professionals, but the Vikings were getting away with a lot in this game. I'm not going to say one way or the other how it affected the game, but, for example, the hit to Kyler's head, granted a free interception, and then J.J. Watt posted today a picture of Chandler Jones and him getting absolutely held like a motherfucker. And like Chandler Jones commented on it, he's like, these offensive linemen should be in jail. If you're on Instagram, I don't know if you are or not, go check out J.J. Watt's post. Or I posted it on Twitter too. You can scroll through my timeline and you can see it. And like Chandler Jones is literally up in the air being held back, and J.J. Watt has his hands up in the air and he's being pushed back by his neck. Like, it's ridiculous. The Vikings were getting away with stuff like that all game. I'm not going to say the Cardinals probably weren't either, but that officiating crew was dog shit. Anyway, so I digress. The defense played an amazing second half of football. They only gave up 3 points after getting dominated in the first half. Vance Joseph made great adjustments. I was very, very happy with that. So the Cardinals defense has played 6 quarters of great football. So I'm really thrilled with that. Again, there's some concerns, things they got to work on, but, it's much better to learn and get better in a win, in a close, ugly win, than it is in a loss. So, you know what? 2-0, I'll take it.
Funnily enough, I feel like I'm the opposite of you in this case. I never complain about penalties, at least not publicly. But besides the one that I actually complained about, the ineligible receiver downfield, the one that I complained about, publicly on.
And I texted you too. I'm like, that penalty. So the 2 penalties that I think need to be absolutely trashed in this league right now are the ineligible man downfield because it's so inconsistent, and then the illegal contact after 5 yards because corners are touching guys and pushing on receivers after 5 yards all the time. If we're not going to be consistent and call it when it happens, it needs to be trashed. But go ahead.
I think the thing about illegal contact after 5 is if the receiver is running into them, right, then it's fine. I think it's when, kind of like the BS call that the Chiefs had where I want to say it was Marquise Brown. He was running past the guy, not into him, right? So the fact that the guy touched him, they were like, oh, legal contact. And even I was like, that is extremely questionable. I mean, I'll take it, but I don't know about that one, Chief. Like that, I don't think we should have gotten that call. I mean, I'm glad we did. It helped towards the dub, but like at the end of the day, I don't think we should have gotten that call because I understand you touched him after 5 yards when he's not running into you. I think the reason why have contact after 5 yards is if the receiver like initiates that contact, then at that point, there's nothing the defender can do except respond to it and try not to commit pass interference. As for like ineligible down receiver, I know why it's there, right? You can't have offensive linemen down the field. But what bothered me is I'm like, we're on the 1 yard line. What is this? Like, it's not like we're going to be throwing to any of the linemen, right? Like, it's very obvious. We were in the shotgun. We're trying to throw it to, I think he threw it to Marquise Brown was who he threw it to. But we're trying to throw it to one of the receivers, right? But, like, that's obviously what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And there's an eligible receiver downfield because our guy won the offensive line trench or on the 1 yard line. I think it's bullshit. But in general, I'm not one to usually cry about penalties. Usually I just take them as they go in my games, whether they're good for me or bad for my team. It's right. Penalties usually don't bother me unless they're like egregious, like the one against the Saints back in, 18, I think now? It was 3 years ago now, I think. Mm-hmm. Or the Dez caught it one. It's kind of but that wasn't a penalty. That was just a bullshit ruling.
Right, bad call.
Right. Just rulings in general, whether it's a penalty or not. It's not often that I'm like sitting there crying about them. It just is what it is, right? The good teams overcome bad calls. That's just how it is, right? And as much as like the Saints probably go to the Super Bowl if that call's against them, I admit this is a hater mentality, and I agree. But I still maintain, if Breeze didn't throw a pick six in overtime, you still could have won. It's a hater mentality, but I think I had that mentality just because I was so sick of hearing all the whining and crying over the change of that rule and whatnot. And then we didn't even change it after a year anyway because it was a dog shit rule, and we all knew it was.
Yeah, it was awful.
Okay, I'm going to be short about mine because we're like 18 minutes in already, and we spent 12 on the Cardinals. I'm just happy that we beat the Chiefs, A. B, I'm happy that Lamar overcame a bad start. And C, I really hope, and it's probably not going to happen. There's some people on my timeline who are like, maybe we just need to accept Lamar for who he is, or hey, 4 years later, this is still working. Why are we saying we're going to figure him out? It's still working 4 years later. Like, this isn't Colin Kaepernick. This isn't Michael Vick, right? This is a guy who still makes it work, right? And there's people for and both. But what I'm hoping this game does is I think the narrative I was always sick of hearing most is not the throwing narrative, because I can agree he needs to improve, but he is what he is on it right now. I'm going to accept who he is, What always bothered me was when people said he could never come back. I'm like, he's come back in like 6 different games, and it was always like, oh, that was against the Bengals, or that was against this. And then when we finally did it against the Colts last year, we had a 10-point deficit going into the fourth quarter, and that was when the Colts were our top 10 defense, week 12, and we did it, and everyone was like, meh, whatever. And this was a team that still won, 10, 11 games last year, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter who he does it again. I'm like, what does he have to do it against? The Chiefs? Well, here we are. And he's done it, right? And so I don't think he can do any more to show people that he can make the comeback. Like, if you don't believe that his team can't make a comeback after Sunday, I got nothing for you. Like, have your wrong belief.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel about it. I definitely feel like Sunday wasn't so much about the. I mean, the win is good because it's AFC standings will matter at the end of the year, and if we have a tie with the Chiefs,
I mean, the tiebreaker is big.
Yeah, tiebreaker, right? That's important. Same for you, right? In the NFC, that's a potential wild card tiebreaker if you don't win the division, right? Against Minnesota, same thing for us, except it's probably more in the. I mean, we still have to beat the Browns and Steelers, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. But it's a tiebreaker down the road is the point.
Mm-hmm.
So that is important. But I think what was most important for me was just to sit back and say, all right, we did it. We can do it against the best teams. We can make a comeback. We can actually run too high safety. Like everything I've wanted Baltimore to do against the Chiefs, they finally did in this game. They ran too high safety. They ran the ball more. They decided not to try and pass Patrick Mahomes because it's just not going to happen. The one thing I will say that was quote unquote lucky was they had to go for it on 4th and 1. We all know if they punt that ball, Chris Collinsworth pointed out the odds were 63% that chance that the Ravens still win it. No.
Yeah.
0% chance they win it. 0%. Barring a missed kick, 0% chance they win it, right? So they had to go for it on 4th and 1. You just had to, and they got it. They did what they do best, right? Run the shotgun sneak. They're really good at it. The offensive line's good at it. The run game is good at it. Lamar's good at it. And they just won the way they were supposed to. The team finally played how they were supposed to play, and the only difference was we're a blitzing team, and we didn't blitz at all. I think we blitzed on 5 plays, and everything else was 2 safety coverage or 4-3 coverage, which is what you have to do against the Chiefs. So, and my mantra, too, you have to score more than 35 points. We scored 36. So I took 2.5 minutes to talk about that. I'm happy, dude. That's all I can say. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes. Deshaun Elliott got hurt with concussion, who was our starting safety. I don't know how long he's out or whatever. But you know what? I'm not going to stress about injuries right now. Our rookie talent is showing up. Not Patrick Uwe. Whatever his first name is. Uwe showed up, the guy who we were criticized for drafting because he never got a sack in college.
He won you the game.
Yeah. And I think the most fun trivia fact about that was that pick came because we traded Orlando Brown to the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
That pick that the Chiefs gave us, little did they know,
for the dub.
was the dub and their loss. So there's a lot I could be angry about. There's a lot for me to pick apart, but I'm not going to, dude. I'm just happy and in solace, and I'm ready to hopefully watch them beat on Detroit next week. Get back to regularly scheduled programming.
So my big thing with the Ravens in this game was they proved me wrong. So I don't know, I'm sure you have a better idea of the exact number of players that are on IR.
15.
So my concern was...
And Ronnie Stanley and Deshaun Elliott are out this Sunday as of right now. So they're not on IR, but they're out.
Mm-hmm. So when all their running backs started getting hurt and with all these other players going on IR, I was concerned about the depth with this team and how that was going to affect them going forward. And you know the rule or the stereotype with an 0-2 start. The likelihood of making the playoffs is very, very low. Now, yes, we have the 17-game season, so I'm sure the probability is a little bit different here. And it's still a very long season, so it's not like they've been out of it. But you fall 0-2, you lose the tiebreaker to the Chiefs, you're going to be in a tough spot. But the more and more I look at this division, it's still a division that you guys can very much take. And your take on the Steelers, like, I understand it where you're coming from. Like, you had some decent points of that, but I'm not buying it. They're not. Hey, man,
I didn't know TJ Watt left. I think that's a big issue. I think without your best player on defense, your defense kind of crumbles.
Okay, but the Raiders still very.
There's one other thing too, and I want to admit I might be wrong on this because I rewatched the film, and I'll get into this later. I think the Cards might be a legit AFC contender moving forward if they keep this up. Because the Raiders.
Oh, okay.
Because they're kind of balling, but we'll get to that in a second. Continue.
So my thing with the Ravens, the thing that impressed me the most was Lamar. Is because Lamar, it's not that he's going to have to carry this year. And it's not that he necessarily hasn't had to carry previously, but he was drafted into an amazing situation. Let's be honest. He was drafted into a great situation, great personnel, great front office. Now the personnel is dwindling. Lots of guys are on IR. The depth is going to be tested. Lamar is going to have to win a lot of games for you this year. And that was something that concerned me. And it's not that I don't think Lamar can't do it. It's I need to see it more. And for him to bounce back after throwing 2 picks and throwing a pick 6 on the first drive. Yeah. And just like Kyler, what impressed me the most about Lamar and Kyler this last weekend was their ability to bounce back from those really, really poor mistakes. So I was really proud of our guys for doing that. And I was really happy for Lamar and my fantasy team because I have Lamar and he dropped me 37 points. Would have been a lot better if he didn't throw those 2 fucking picks. But I would have been able to drop 200 points in fantasy this year or last week if he didn't throw those 2 picks. But, I digress. I got to give props to Lamar because I know I like to give Ravens fans and Lamar stands a lot of shit on the timeline because the whole Lamar Kyler debate, and I'm still going to say it, Kyler is better. But with that being said, I was
recording off right now.
with that being said, I was really, really impressed with what Lamar did, and for him to be able to come back and win a shootout against Patrick Mahomes. I think he really needed to do that, and he really needed to get the monkey off his back so people can stop with the whole, the Ravens can't beat the Chiefs, so blah 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 blah, and there's no real competitor to the Chiefs in the AFC. Well, if they were to play again in the playoffs, I'm probably not picking the Ravens, but they showed that they can do it, and I think that's a really big. I don't know, man. It's really hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
I agree. I'm not saying you're wrong.
And with that being said, more injuries are going to stack up for your team. So that's one thing that makes me nervous is injuries always will stack up. And when they happen a lot
on the IR already.
Right. I know. So I'm knocking on wood for you. But with that being said, injuries are going to continue to happen. And when you have so many guys on IR that are going to miss the season very early on in the season, it's worrisome. You know what I'm saying? So it's very big. I'm very happy that the Ravens bounce back. I like seeing them do well. I want them to do well for you. So I was really impressed with their win this weekend, and good for them. So I'm glad the Ravens were able to bounce back and finally get that Chiefs monkey off their back.
Yeah, check it on me on week 10. See how I feel about everything else after. But like I said, for now, I'm relaxed, dude. Like, I'm chill. I'm
sure you feel a lot better about where your team is at now.
I do.
Because I know you weren't necessarily doom and gloom, but you even said to yourself, you're like, this is like an 8 to 9 win team. We're going to be struggling.
Well, yeah, because I think a part of that was as I thought for the first 2 weeks, the Raiders are not good, and so I thought to myself, we lost to a not very good team. My opinion has slightly changed on that. We probably lost to a pretty good team, and we just didn't know it at the time. Not making excuses because there were so many times we could have just won the game and we didn't. So either way, moving on into week 3, some notable things that are going on in the NFL. Sorry, we had 25 minutes of bird watch, and we mean for that to be a 15-minute section. But we had a huge weekend, so we'll excuse it.
It was a big weekend for both of our guys.
Yeah, because last weekend we had it pretty short. This week it was a little bit longer. Sorry, we got really excited. Quick news. It's actually more on the quarterback side. Tua is hurt. Apparently, Tua is not going to be playing this weekend. Jacoby Brissett is going to be playing this weekend against the Raiders. Doesn't look good for the Dolphins on that front of the things, so we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how Jacoby Brissett does in place of Tua. Another thing on the quarterback issue is Taylor Heinicke is still going to be starting. He had an impressive Thursday night game against the Giants, which I finally watched the film on. No, I shouldn't say film. I watched highlights. I didn't watch film. Kind of a banger. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little upset that I missed out on that Thursday night. But I had a rehearsal dinner for a wedding, so I missed it for a good reason. And then, what was the other piece of news? I did not write it down. I had it all in my head. There was Tua, Heinicke. Oh, it was actually about the Raiders. We already knew this going into Sunday, but Mariota is now on IR. So the Raiders don't have a backup quarterback, at least one that you would trust at the moment. So if Derek Carr gets hurt, the Raiders might be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So, you got any news?
No, not really. I don't think so.
Oh, I missed the other one. Oh, yeah. And you know what? We'll get there when we get there. It'll be in the game picks. So, let's start our game picks for this week. This Thursday night, we got Panthers and Texans playing. Interesting matchup. I think this would be a lot better if Tyler Taylor was playing. Poor guy is hurt, so he's not playing right now.
And yeah, real quick, I just want to mention Tyler Taylor. He's been dealt such a poor hand in the NFL. You know, he carried the Bills to the playoffs a few years back. And maybe carried isn't the right word, but he led the Bills to the playoffs a few years back for the first time in a long time. And then he went to the Chargers last year and had his lung punctured by his own training staff, and then and rightfully so, got his job taken by Justin Herbert. But it's not like it was his fault. And now he's going to a really, really poor situation, not only with the media, but with the surrounding roster and the Texans. And he was looking good in it, and he won them a game. And so we're like, all right, good for Tyler Taylor, and now he's hurt again. And it's just, I really feel for the guy. Like, I want him to succeed really bad. He really deserves it. So I just think it's unfortunate that he's hurt, man.
You forgot to mention that two things. That he actually did have two other starts on AFC North teams. He started a couple games for the Ravens when Flacco was hurt because he was drafted as Flacco's backup.
Right.
And then he also was supposed to be the starter in Cleveland, but he had two bad games, and they said, screw it, we're putting in Baker Mayfield, and they never looked back. So very unfortunate for him that he's always just had a rookie behind him that just easily put him forth. Yeah, kind of sucks. But, yeah, unfortunate. As for the game itself, you know, a piece of me was believing, you know what, maybe the Texans are a 7-10 team and we just didn't know it, right? But I think they're a 7-10 team with Tyler Taylor at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if, I don't know if with Deshaun Watson not playing this weekend, I don't know if Davis Mills is enough. Don't know. He's a rookie. Wouldn't really trust that. And on the other side is Sam Darnold, who's looking hot, by the way. Sam Darnold looks good. I'm super happy about that. In a Carolina defense that stomped the heck out of a Saints offense that embarrassed Green Bay. And I know, crazy things happen week 1, week 2, but we got to go off of what we've seen. And I think the Panthers would be way more prepared to win this game on a short week than the Texans would be, especially because the Texans have a rookie QB who probably hasn't prepared himself to start he probably should. I'm not saying he isn't preparing right now, but I'm saying it's not like he's been preparing all offseason to be the starter, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think this is barring a Panthers meltdown. I think this dub goes to the Panthers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And something I wanted to mention too was Sam Darnold, because he's been really impressive so far in this offense, and I think with the surrounding weapons and the scheme that he's in, he's finally showing. He's showing more. He's consistently putting the flashes that he showed with the Jets out there with the Panthers, because he has a great running back in Christian McCaffrey. He's got really good wide receivers. He has chemistry already with Robbie Anderson. So all that into consideration, I've actually been really impressed with Sam Darnold. And when you mentioned their defense, their rookie quarterback J.C. Horn.
Oh, yes. He's actually doing
shutting
really well.
down 50% of the field, man. He's playing really well. And then in addition to that, I can't confirm this, but I believe I saw and read today that not only do the Panthers lead the NFL in quarterback hits, but they lead in pressure rate. Their pass rush has been getting after it, and I don't care who you have on the back end in your secondary. If you're going to lead the league in pass rush rate and quarterback hits, I don't care who you got on the back end. It's going to be so hard for quarterbacks to have time to throw the football and run an offense. So that defense is doing really good. And another thing that I think you got to consider with the Panthers going forward is they have one of the easiest schedules, if not the very easiest schedule, the rest of the way, and they're already 2-0. I was looking at it today, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I think every single one of their next 4 to 5 games all have losing records dating back from the beginning of last season. And now it's last season. Things change, but things don't change that much in one off season. So I feel like the Panthers are really well set up.
Did you see the Texans roster over one off season?
I mean, okay, but did they get better?
No, but they changed 33 players.
Right, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think the Panthers have the ability to potentially. I'm not going to say they're going to make a run, but they're going to be able to make some noise. And I'm not saying they're going to win their division, but this could be a really good team. And they got a favorable schedule, so I think they could be a problem. And they're only going to get better from here on out. So I'm obviously going Panthers this week, but, keep an eye out on them.
It's funny how much of a hypocrite I am, because even when they go 3-0, I'll probably be one of those people that's like, so Panthers are one of the 3-0 pretenders, despite the fact I'm all in on Sam Darnold. I don't know what it is. The rest of the roster is good. It's good, but I don't know if it's playoff good. I don't know, but their schedule's not that hard. They play the Texans this week, Cowboys the following week, Eagles the following week, Vikings the following week, Giants and Falcons. They have a gauntlet.
Pretty favorable.
They have a gauntlet of favorable games, right? I'm not saying they're going to win them, but they have a gauntlet of favorable games. And then they kind of run into a gauntlet of hard ones: Patriots, Cardinals, Washington, Dolphins. But so their season. Oh no! Both their Buccaneers games are 2 of their last 3 games. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
You have to play.
Better start stacking wins now,
bro. You got to play a Tom Brady team that's locked and loaded at the. That's unfortunate. Who decided that was a good idea? Anyway,
stacking wins.
Yeah, stack them now. Stack them now. Start strong early. Anyway, next game: Indianapolis Colts versus Titans. I don't got a lot on this one. Colts are banged up, and
Carson Wentz isn't going to play.
And the fact I know he's not, and the fact that the Colts showed some effort against Rams, I thought they were going to come back and win it at first, right? And I would have been "Yo, this would be so cool." They didn't, and it's because Jacob Eason was starting, and Jacob Eason threw a pick on the drive to try and win the game, and I don't blame him for throwing the pick because it's hey, dude, Wentz is hurt, go win us the game. Good luck.
Did you see? I'm sorry. Did you see that weird punt that the Rams tried?
Yes.
Yeah, because the game was close, but the Rams were also really stupid there. So for people who didn't see it, the Rams tried to run this really weird kind of trick punt. So basically what they did is they had a player lined up directly behind the long snapper, and then Johnny Hekker was offset to the left side of the hashes. Now keep in mind, they were pinned back deep. They were inside the 10. So Johnny Hekker's basically punting in the end zone. So what they did is right before the long snapper snapped the ball, the player that was directly behind the long snapper was supposed to shift right, and he shifted left. And the reason they did this is because Johnny Hekker was trying to throw off the punt returner because he was going to line up left, punt the ball left, but have the punt returner lined up on the right side of the field, so he would have to run all the way over to the other side so they wouldn't get a big return. I get it. I think it's kind of a useless concept, and it cost you there. So anyway, the player lined up behind the long snapper shifts to the left, and he snaps the ball, and it hits the player behind him in the arm, and the ball bounces in the end zone. Colts recover, and it's a touchdown. So the score was a little bit closer maybe than it probably should have been because of that play, but the Colts did show fight, and they're a well-coached football team, but Carson Wentz is your quarterback, and he's made of glass. And also, let's keep in mind, I saw this today, Indianapolis leads the league in allowed quarterback hits. So do you have a quarterback made of glass getting hit more than any quarterback in the NFL through 2 weeks? It's not a recipe for success.
Yeah, so they're playing the Titans, and speaking of glass, the opposite of glass is Derrick Henry, who had 235 yards and 4 touchdowns last week, and instantly crushed the narrative that the workload was quote-unquote catching up with him, because I don't know if you actually went back and watched it, dude. Derrick Henry killed everyone. Literally.
He's on my fantasy team, trust me, I know.
No, but I mean, watching it, he just killed people.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they play the Colts, and there's supposed to be this bad luck thing where the Titans don't do well against the Colts. Not buying it. Picking the Titans. They're healthy. And Derrick Henry's rolling, and as long as he's rolling, I don't think it really matters what's going on for the other team. And secondly, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones aren't having exactly the hottest start, but around now is when you're starting to get used to the flow and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm picking the Titans here and an 0-3 start for the Colts. If the Titans lose here and start 1-2, I'm going to really question their ability, the comeback against Seattle. Not that it's a bad comeback, but I'm going to question legitimacy. Okay, did you get lucky because you kept giving the rock to Henry, right, and you tired the defense out, or are we a real team here? I don't know. The Titans just starting 1-2 would really off-put me. They're not doomed. It would just really off-put me, and I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure they win this game.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm also going Titans here.
Cool. All right, Falcons Giants. It's kind of weird. I said I wouldn't pick a team quarterback by Daniel Jones, but I'm also just not picking a team that I believe is literally the worst team in the NFL, maybe besides the Jaguars, which is the Falcons. So I'm gonna pick the Giants because they showed some fight and they'll be in New York. I must say this. I kind of liked the RPO plays that they threw into the Giants game. Having Daniel Jones run really helps your offense, opens up your wide receivers, which makes things easier for Daniel Jones, and it can open it up for Barkley. I like the idea. I kind of hope they full send it this year. I want to see what happens. That being said, Giants.
All right, so this will be the first time we differ. I'm going to go Falcons here, and it's simply because I don't know if you saw the effort that the Falcons put on in the game, but they very nearly, made it a game with the Bucs. Now, Bucs still ended up kind of stomping them in the end, but they made it close, and they made it interesting in the middle of that game. I understand where you're coming from with this whole Daniel Jones athletic ability thing, but I don't think that's sustainable enough. Saquon Barkley started shaking. I think he needs time to knock off the rust. People are really concerned, even in our fantasy league, our buddy added him to the trade block in our league, and I'm like, if I had something I wanted to give up for him, probably would, because I want to upgrade my running back position, but at the moment, I'm not willing to do that because I think Saquon's going to be fine, but there's a rough offensive line in front of him, and he's knocking off the rust from an ACL tear, I believe. Yes?
Yeah.
So he's going to need a little bit more time. He showed the burst on that big, I think it was a 41-yard run, something like that. He showed that he still got it. It can move. He's going to be all right. I just think he needs more time. In terms of Daniel Jones' athletic ability, which you wanted to bring up, I don't think that's sustainable. I think this is going to be an icky game. Daniel Jones also only ever plays good against the Washington football team, so I'm going to go Falcons here.
Daniel Jones has also never won a game on Thursday Night Football. Fun fact. And I think he's 0-3 these days. I'll give you the next two games. I'm going to give them both to you at the same time. Okay, we got the LA Chargers and the Chiefs, and then the Bengals and the Steelers.
So let's start with the Chargers and the Chiefs here. Bottom line, I'm going to pick the Chiefs because I'm not going to pick that team to lose back-to-back games. I really like what the Chargers are doing. I really like the pieces they have on that team, especially offensively with Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, list goes on. They got some really solid defensive pieces. But again, guys, it's the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs, and I'm not going to pick them to lose back-to-back games, and I'll probably just leave that one at that. I don't really need to get in depth with this one. I'm going to go Chiefs.
Okay.
What say you?
And then go with the Bengals Steelers first, and then I'll go with both of them.
Okay, Bengals Steelers. So this one's kind of a tough one for me too. I'm not saying because I'm really not, because I know you're trying to give the Steelers the benefit of the doubt, and I understand, and I'm picking up what you're putting down with them, but I watched the entirety of that Steelers and Raider game because that was the only game I had in the morning window because I have direct
tore them up.
Derek Carr, I'm not going to say it, but and a lot of people are that he's the leading MVP candidate. I'm not going to say that.
I mean, statistically, I don't know if you could. I mean, Tom Brady maybe, but statistically, Derek Carr is definitely in the conversation.
He's leading the league in pass yards, and it's not particularly close.
But let's not crown a guy after 2 weeks.
Right, exactly. So I really like what the Raiders are doing, and the pass rush for them has been incredible, and I think that's a big difference for their defense this year because their defense was god-awful last year, but I don't think this is the same Raider defense as last year, and I think a big part of that is their pass rush. Max Crosby, now, take PFF for what it is. It's not the Bible, but it is a tool. Granted, for some god-awful reason, they have Rodney Hudson graded in the 40s, which I just don't understand. Not going to get into that, but it's so stupid. Max Crosby is actually the highest graded pass rusher in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
so
fucking killed Baltimore. Did you not see that man 1v5?
Right, and he had another really good game against the Steelers as well. So I really like what the Raiders are doing, and from what I saw from the Steelers, it's just more of what I saw in the second half of the season last year from them, and it's just not impressive whatsoever. And by second half of the season, I mean the final 5 games. But yeah, I'm not buying the Steelers, and I think now the Raiders, ever since John Gruden's been there, they have a really hot start to the season. So let's see if they can finally finish.
Can we just for the sake of time, can we talk about the Raiders when we get to the Raiders?
Oh yeah, my bad. So Bengals Steelers. So Bengals Steelers. From what I saw from the Steelers in that game, I'm really not buying it. I don't think they have what it takes. Yeah, Big Ben kind of showed the vintage bouncing off of, pass rushers and so on and so forth, and he looks better, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. And I think, honestly, I love Joe Burrow, and I love the pieces that they have on offense, and I think it's going to be enough to get after that defense. I'm going to go Bengals.
All right. I'm still going Steelers here, and I'll tell you why. I watched the full Bengals-Bears game, and it was a nightmare as a guy who was cheering for Joe Burrow to watch Joe Burrow threw 5 passes that I would call ugly. Ugly. That I would have thought would have been rookie mistakes. Like, both of it, not both. One of his interceptions was ugly. The other was not his fault. He was batted at the line and taken back for pick 6. Not his fault. Still sad to see. But there was one pick where he had, I think it was T. Higgins, wide open. And, like, if he lands the shot, it's a touchdown. And it goes, like, 6 yards out of bounds. And I'm like, bruh. What the fuck?
It's a shame they didn't invest in their offensive line.
Yeah, exactly. But I was just like, oh, no, dude. Don't get me started. So, whether TJ Watt's playing or not, I don't think matters. I think Bengals still have a talent deficiency overall. Not obviously on offense, because their offense is pretty nice. But
outside their offensive line.
Yeah, that's true. But I think there's just a talent deficiency going on here. And I would love to see the Bengals beat the Steelers. Promise you, I will be cheering if the Bengals beat the Steelers. I would like to be 0-1 on this pick because I'm picking the Steelers here. I don't see them overcoming their talent deficiency. If they couldn't do it to beat the Bears, why would they do it to beat the Steelers? That's how I feel. And
I can buy that. I just don't expect Joe Burrow to play that poorly back-to-back weeks.
And then as for the Chargers Chiefs, I guess I'm a certified hater of the Chargers. I'm not really, but as a meme, I'm like a certified hater of the Chargers because I just don't believe in their hype at all. And they lost to Dallas like I thought they would. Like, I don't know where anybody in the NFL is buying this Chargers hype. Like, yes, Justin Herbert is so fun to watch. Going back and looking at the Dallas Chargers game, I was like, yeah, Herbert's really good. But then I looked at the rest of the team, I'm like, yeah, it needs work. Not buying it. So, yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs here. So that'll lead us speaking of the Bears, they play the Browns this weekend. That'll be the next game we talk about. I don't got a lot to say on this one. I mean, Andy Dalton may or may not play this Sunday. They have announced that he is the starter if Andy Dalton is healthy, but I think so far, and we don't know officially, but I think so far it looks like Justin Fields is supposed to play this Sunday. That's exciting. Doesn't matter to me. They're playing the Browns. Browns looked a little shaky on Sunday. They pulled out the win anyway. I'm going to keep going with the Browns. They haven't shown me a reason not to pick them. I still like them a lot. Jarvis Landry's hurt, but Odell's supposed to be coming back this Sunday, so it's not like that won't be replaced. Yeah, and their attack runs through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt anyway. So why do I need to be worried about what's going on at receiver when the main part of their offense is still running? And their defense is solid. a lot to like about this Browns team. I got him beating Chicago in the dog pound.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also going to go Browns here. I can't buy anything the Bears are putting down. I hate watching that football team. It's probably the most boring brand of football in the National Football League.
Justin Fields might make it fun, though.
Maybe Justin Fields does, but I hate Matt Nagy, dude. He's probably my least favorite coach in the league. I find it really hard to pick the Bears on any given week, and especially against what is probably the most talented overall team in the AFC. Yeah, I'm going to go Browns.
Cool. You got Ravens-Lions.
Poor Lions. You know what? There's some poor bastard out there who put, I don't remember, I think it was a 16-part parlay that he would have won $750,000 last night if the Lions
would have covered.
Yeah.
They were given an 11.5-point cover. That's pretty big.
And, oh, man, I feel so bad for him because you know what? They gave him so much hope going into halftime, but like I told you before we started recording, Aaron Rodgers is now 5-0 when trailing to the Lions at halftime in his career. So maybe that was the death knell. With that being said, yeah, the Ravens are getting it done. I just saw them beat the Chiefs in primetime in not convincing fashion by any means, but it's the Lions.
What you would expect between two top AFC teams.
Right. Yeah, so I'm going Ravens here. Not much to really debate about it. The Lions are, I think you mentioned something about how there's 3 teams like you're for sure cutting out of the playoffs. The Lions are one of them for me. So
the Lions are like, I feel like Jared Goff is a tale of 2 quarterbacks because there was like when I was able to watch it before I had to do basketball practice last night, I was like, damn, Jared Goff's dealing. Maybe he just needed to be in a different situation. He's doing all right. And then I got home at like 9 o'clock, watched the highlights, and I was like, God, Jared Goof showed up again. Oh, no. I don't expect any different against a better defense. No offense to the Green Bay defense, but against a better defense that Baltimore has, I don't expect them to be prepared for the brand of football that the Ravens bring. So, yeah. Ravens. Interesting one here that I'll take here. Saints Patriots. This is tough. I think very tough to pick here. Because on the one hand, the Saints gave you ugly and elite. So which one are they, ugly or elite? Or are they somewhere in the middle? Patriots, on the other hand, have given you a steady dose of we're not bad. We're decent. And Mac Jones can play this game. And if his floor is just managing the game, then they're fine, right? Because they got a great running game, great defense. There's not a ton to dislike about the Patriots. And even then, if your quarterback's playing at, his floor is game managing, that's okay if that's his floor. Because if that's the worst he's going to play, your receivers aren't built to carry the game anyway. So, who cares? I think the Patriots are fit to win this game at home against the Saints. I definitely trust the matchup in Bill Belichick's favor over Sean Payton's. So I am picking the Patriots here. I think it's a bit of a risk, though, to pick the Patriots here only because the Saints have way bigger splash plays with Alvin Kamara, James Winston's big arm, the depth that the Saints have on defense. There's a lot to like about New Orleans here, but you got to pick one here, and I think I'm just going to go with the home team and the fact that Belichick, I trust Belichick to out-game plan Sean Payton's offense, but this one's a coin toss, dude.
So I'm going Patriots, and here's why. So one thing I think we got to also consider with the Saints here is they've been thrown a pretty shitty hand to start the year, given the fact that they haven't been home. I don't know if you saw it. The Superdome caught on fire today.
I didn't.
So
that is a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, the Superdome caught on fire today. So even when they do return to New Orleans, is their stadium habitable? I don't know. I don't think the fire was super, super bad, but there's obviously something that's not right there. And there's going to be inspections and stuff like that are going to need to take place to make sure it's actually, inhabitable. So the Saints have been dealt a really rough hand. And another thing that I think played against them this last week is I believe due to COVID protocols, they were missing 5 assistant coaches. So I don't think that'll happen this week. But with that being said, like that played into the downfall of the Saints last week. And now what we saw out of Jameis in week 1 was great, but didn't he have less than 200 pass yards? And I know they were on a lot of short fields, and yeah, he threw 5 touchdown passes, but then what we saw out of Jameis just this last week was, I believe, a sub 50% completion percentage, really low passing yards, and 2 bad picks.
We saw pre-LASIK Jameis.
Yeah, we saw the bad Jameis raise his ugly head again. So I really, because I'm banging the table for Jameis, I really want to see him do well. I want to see him be a successful NFL quarterback, but he's got to show the consistency. And if you lack consistency versus Bill Belichick and the Patriots, you're going to lose. I like what the Saints have, but I don't know if it's all going to come together. And given the situation that their team and franchise has been put in to start the year, they're at a disadvantage at that point already. And now you got to go on the road to New England, a hostile environment against Bill Belichick. It's a lot to overcome. I wouldn't be shocked if the Saints win this game by any means. If Jameis comes out and he's the LASIK Jameis, they'll have a good shot. It'll be a good game, but I'm going to go Patriots.
Yeah. But go Patriots here. Please keep this one short. The Cardinals are playing the Jaguars. The Jaguars probably still are the worst team in football. If you're not picking the Cardinals, you're either A, trying to pick an upset pick, or you're crazy. So, yeah, I'm picking Arizona.
The only 2 things that I have to say about this matchup is the Jaguars have now lost 17 straight games. And while Trevor Lawrence, he's promising, is leading the league at 36% of passes that are uncatchable.
You know what?
That's a lot of passes.
I lied. I have something to say about this game, okay? I want to talk about Trevor Lawrence. He passed for only 118 yards last week. Now, that's kind of a yikes, right? You were playing a good Denver D. Let's give him some slack. How about this? The Jaguars started that Broncos game 7-0. They started with a 7-0 lead. You want to know why?
What's that?
Trevor Lawrence led them on a 73-yard drive. He dissected the Denver defense. 73 yards in the first quarter. After that, he threw 45 the rest of the game. The last 15 minutes of the game, he threw for 45 yards. That's all I got to say. That's it.
Thanks.
Trash. I'm not calling Trevor Lawrence trash, but that performance is trash. Cardinals.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I believe it's 36% of his passes have been deemed uncatchable. That's bad, man. And I know the rumors are kind of swirling around Urban Meyer. I don't think he's going to leave and go to USC. Like, you're not going to do that. I mean, okay, maybe crazier things have happened, but I highly doubt that happens. But I was an Urban Meyer believer, but I don't know, man. And it's not like this team doesn't have like decent weapons offensively. So I don't know. Something makes me nervous about this team, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence is in a rough spot. And it's no disrespect to him. I think he has the potential to be a very, very great quarterback, but I think the hype needs to be tempered around him. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Cardinals should take care of this game handily and be 3-0 at the end of the game.
Cool. So the next one is Washington versus Bills. So there's something that I've been going on in my mind, and I had to go back and research to last year. 6 of the 7 games that Washington won last year were teams with losing records. 6 of the 7 games were also to backup quarterbacks.
Wow.
I'm starting to wonder if their great defensive effort wasn't just because they were playing against backups, because they didn't have a great week 1, let's be honest. I mean, they held the Chargers to 20 points, but I'm not high on the Chargers here. And then they let the Giants score 29 points. I'm skeptical. I'm not saying I don't like Montez Sweat and Chase Young, but I'm skeptical of my take that like this Washington defense was going to be so big. And I'm starting to think they're overrated. Just a little bit. And they're playing Buffalo this weekend. There ain't no way I'm picking Washington. Unless, like, Taylor Heineke has it in him to outshoot Josh Allen and everybody else. But I highly doubt that. And the Buffalo Bills, if you watched last weekend, murdered. Straight up serial killer murdered all 53 men I should say 46 because only 46 played. 46 men on that Dolphins roster. Yeah, Bills hands down. I'm not even considering Washington here.
Yeah, and honestly, I think of all the teams from top to bottom in the NFC East, I do think I like Washington the most. But yeah, and that's so weird to say because when you look at Washington, it's not like they're an otherworldly team.
I think Monday night's game, we'll get to it, might determine who I like most in the East going forward.
That division makes me want to bomb.
We'll see what happens. I actually think this division will be exciting this year because it has exciting quarterbacks to watch. I think being able to watch Heineke, Hurts, and Prescott will be fun this year. But we'll get there. So we're both picking Bills here?
Yeah, Bills.
Okay, so we're already at this point in the season. Are you willing to pick the Jets? Because I'm not. They're playing the Broncos.
So I think I kind of mentioned this last week, and I'm not because I saw this post today, and it was the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Panthers, and the Broncos, and it was of these 4 undefeated teams, which one are you buying as a playoff contender? And I bought all 3 of them besides the Broncos. And now the Broncos, I think maybe of those 4 teams, probably have the best overall roster, but I got to see that more consistently, and I like Teddy, man. I really, really do. But he hasn't proven to be he did. Again. He did. And maybe I just need to see more consistently. And maybe I'm PTSD. With the Broncos the way you are with the Chargers or other teams that are nationally being hyped up. And maybe I'm not buying, and maybe the Broncos aren't necessarily being hyped up. But I'm not buying the Broncos, quote unquote hype. So, yeah.
So are you telling me you're picking the Jets here?
I mean, no, I'm not. Obviously, but I don't think the Broncos are all that it's cracked up to be. I'm obviously not going to pick the Jets here. One thing I wanted to say about the Jets is, I think I mentioned it to you. Prior to recording, but the Zach Wilson, because I already know you weren't high on Zach Wilson, and the thing, because I didn't know how I felt about Zach Wilson coming to the draft, because I just didn't watch enough of him, and I didn't really care to be quite honest. But with that being said, I think anytime you draft a player, especially a quarterback, really high out of an FPS independent conference, like they did Zach Wilson with coming out of BYU, that's a really big risk. And now when you're also going to couple it with a defensive-minded head coach with a very, very poor historical franchise, that just seems like a recipe for disaster. And I know it's only 2 games into his career, but, man, it was so, so ugly. And like you said, I'll let you kind of say what you said with the whole matchup about last week, but, man, it's going to get ugly for the Jets, and I think Zach Wilson, man. But I'm going to go Broncos here, and they're going to start 3-0, but I'm not ready to buy that Bronco hype.
So here's how I know you'll be willing to buy Bronco hype. Okay, so if the Broncos were to finish even 4-3, or 5-2 in their next 7 games, you should buy it. Because after this, they play the Ravens, the Steelers, the Raiders, and the Browns. It's a gauntlet. And if they went 2-2 in that gauntlet, you gotta respect it. You have to.
And I will respect it. And you know what? If they set themselves up to be a playoff contending team, which they very well could, I'm not going to pick them to beat any of the superpowers in the AFC.
I think it depends on how they play out. This defense could get better as the season goes on. I think that's the biggest reason why people like them is the defense is really good.
And the weapons are great as well. So you got to give them credit where it's due because they built a really good roster. I got to see it.
I think the biggest test will be the Raiders and Browns game because they play both those games in 4 days. They play the Raiders on Sunday, and then they play the Browns on Thursday night. So
good luck.
Yeah, good luck to them. We'll get there when we get there. This week's from now. Next one, Dolphins Raiders. It's weird to say this. The Dolphins look better with Tua under center. they did not look very good when Brissett was under center. last week, and I don't think they're going to look very good against the Raiders. This Raiders team is massively improved. I'm willing to say I was wrong about them after 2 weeks. I want to see if it keep going, right? I certainly have some faith that the Raiders are going to do well because I've been watching them do well. I watched both the Raiders-Steelers game, and I watched them beat my guys as well, and they look like a quality team. Derek Carr's dealing. I expect more of it. I'm predicting a Las Vegas 3-0 to start the season.
Yeah, I'm not ready to jump on board the Raiders hype train and say that they're going to, make the playoffs or make a run or something like that, because they've always started really strong under John Gruden to start the season. I kind of mentioned it earlier when I trailed off when we were talking about the Steelers and Bengals matchup. So I'm not going to talk about the Raiders a whole lot here, but we've seen them start strong and then trail off to end the year. But I think what separates this year from years past is the quality and the improvement of their defense, especially their pass rush. And I think that's going to make a big, big difference for them going forward. Yeah, I'm going Raiders here.
Yeah. We got 4 more games. I absolutely refuse to believe the Vikings start 0-3, and they play this game at home against Seattle. Now, my first intention is I pick Seattle in this game, right? And if anybody knows me, I have a really bad track record of picking Vikings games, whether I pick for or against them. I have a really bad track record. I don't know what it is about the Vikings. I can't pick their games. I want to say I kept track of it at one point, but there was like 22 games where I picked 22 Vikings games, and I was like 9-13 picking them. I'm terrible at it, so don't trust my word for it. But there's a piece of me after the last 2 weeks where Kirk Cousins led 2 game-winning drives, only for them to lose the game because their kicker couldn't make a field goal, right? Yep. Or in the against the Bengals, Dalvin Cook fumbled the ball. That's a lot of bad luck, but I think there's a lot to be said.
It could easily be 2-0 right now.
Yes, that's my point, right? And that's what I wanted to say. They could easily be 2-0. There's a fine, thin line between 0-2 and 2-0 sometimes, and I think the Vikings embrace that fine line more than any other team this year. Now, there's something to be said of, well, maybe you should just won it earlier in the game. True, right? But if you're doing everything right at the end of a game to win a game, theoretically you should win the game, right? And I feel bad for the Vikings because I don't think they've done awfully. I don't think they deserve to be 0-2, but here we are. The results played out the way they did, and that's how it is. Seattle, on the other hand, Seattle went total Dr. Jekyll and Hyde on us. Totally balled out week 1, balled out for the first half this last week, and then just let Tennessee quite literally, I don't mean it metaphorically, quite literally run all over them. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And now you're playing a Vikings team that likes to do the same thing, run the ball, except Dalvin Cook's a little bit more dynamic because he likes to catch the ball. I'm not discrediting Derrick Henry's 60 receiving yards that he had because he actually received the ball this last weekend. But Dalvin Cook specializes in that. I like this Vikings offense. I actually liked some of the splash plays that the Vikings defense made against the Cardinals because they did. Danielle Hunter was a beast. They had a couple interceptions.
Nick Vigil was a monster in that game. Not even just the pick six. Like, he was all over the field.
I refuse to believe the Vikings go 0-3. That's literally what it mostly comes down to. I pick Minnesota because of that. And I've liked what I've seen the last 2 games despite 2 L's.
And
it's hard.
This one's a really tough one to pick, and I kind of want to pick against you just so I can maybe potentially get a game up on you. But it's hard for me to pick Seattle here because honestly, I think when I'm looking at it, I believe, it's so hard to say this when you're talking about teams from the NFC West, but I believe they're the weakest link in the division.
You said that 2 weeks ago, and I didn't believe you. And 2 weeks later, I think I believe you. And that's not a bad thing because it's just a tough division.
Right. And Tyler Lockett and Wilson have been, Tyler Lockett and Wilson. What concerned me in that second half is I saw exactly from Seattle what I expected to see them from this year was they were going to come out flat. Russell Wilson wasn't going to be able to do his thing. The offensive line was going to struggle, and the back end of the defense was going to struggle, and they were going to let running backs run all over them. So my one concern about the Vikings with this game is Dalvin Cook did get pretty banged up towards the end of the Cardinal game. So I'm sure he's going to get, work on in the training room all week, and he's going to be ready to go. But I will question his effectiveness because he was taking a beating in the Cardinal game. And, I mean, it happens when he was kind of the focal point of the offense for a good chunk of the Cardinal game. But Seattle has a really hard time stopping the run. And with what Derrick Henry did over the weekend, it kind of blew my mind what the Cardinals were able to do in mitigating him. And if Seattle couldn't stop Derrick Henry, if you're going to have a more dynamic guy in Dalvin Cook coming out of the backfield in the passing game, like you mentioned as well, Kirk Cousins, he played really well in the first half. He struggled down in the second half because the Cardinals made really good adjustments.
He didn't throw an interception, right?
He didn't throw a pick. He had 150 yards and 3 touchdown passes in the first half. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson played really, really well. I remember Justin Jefferson had a really, really terrible drop, but outside of that, those two dudes ate.
Oh, along the left side of the sideline, right?
Yeah, and it just went right through his arms.
Yeah, he should have had it.
Yeah, and it was on a third down too, so it was a really big play in the game. But with that being said, I just don't think this matchup plays well into the Seahawks' favor, and I honestly want to pick the Seahawks here because I think everything I've seen over the Seahawks this year or over the years, and betting against Russell Wilson is never a good idea, but kind of like along your lines, I think this matchup doesn't play well into the Vikings' favor because it's very, very similar to the Titans team, and I think that's because even with the Cardinals, I don't want to keep bringing them up in this situation, but I'm kind of seeing the similarities here because we just played this Vikings team. I believe the Cardinals went in with the same game plan defensively to stop Derrick Henry and mitigate their offense that they did with the Vikings, and it didn't work. And they had to make adjustments. So if they couldn't stop Derrick Henry in the way that the Titans run their offense, I really don't see them having a lot of success trying to stop the Vikings either because they are so similar. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm going to go Vikings here, and I need the Seahawks to lose as many games as they possibly can. So.
All right, so we got 3 more to go. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, actually. Consider me a Rams doubter only as a Super Bowl contender. I still got them winning the West.
Okay.
It's just 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks, right? No, not hitting the panic button. I still got the Rams winning the West. But there's a piece of me...
What's your reason? I want to know why.
There's a piece of me that questions them as my Super Bowl pick. And what's funny is if I look across the NFC, there's only one team I would actually pick above them as my Super Bowl pick. Because going into the season, I was like, I think it's the Rams. I think my pick right now to win the Super Bowl, not win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl for the NFC, would actually be their opponent, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just looks near flawless in a lot of situations. And I can't say the same for the Rams. They're gritty. Kind of like last year. I was hyping up the Rams last year, if you remember, as like the blue-collar team. Their wins weren't pretty, but they just kept doing it.
Right.
Do you remember that metaphor I brought up last year?
Yeah.
And the Rams are still kind of doing that, except they just have a better quarterback, and Cooper Kupp is a monster. He's literally – I'm just to say, he's wide receiver 1 for the team. He's not playing like wide receiver 1. He is wide receiver 1. 9 catches, 160 yards, 3 TDs, insanity. Cooper Kupp in Detroit – sorry, not Cooper Kupp in Detroit. Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford, elite connection. Amazing. I think Tampa Bay's been playing better than they have. And this is being nitpicky for 2 elite teams, by the way. This isn't me saying, maybe the Rams aren't going to make the Super Bowl. This is me Tampa Bay's been better, and that's the other team I see beating them in an NFC Championship game. And they play each other this week. And I'm picking Tampa Bay because I liked what I've seen from them more in the first 2 weeks than the Rams. Now, if the Rams win this game, will I be surprised? Not at all. Not even once would I be surprised. But you got to pick a team, right? And I'm going to pick the team that I think has, I'm going to say it, the better quarterback, the better offense, and a better flow to their game plans right now. Bruce Arians and his team have executed it just a bit better than McVay have. However, that's weird for me to say considering how literally 8 hours goes, I just tweeted how I'm pretty sure Sean McVay is the offensive coming of Bill Belichick because this guy never loses when he has a lead at the half. He's 39-0 with a lead at the half. Sean McVay is nuts. Crazy good. I think one of my favorite interviews that he ever had was when someone asked him about what he thought of the other team, and he rambled off like 20 players and like some you'd never even heard of, and he like complimented them all and was like, "This is what he does well. We got to get around this. This is their third."
There's a football guy.
Yeah, dude, he's just a nerd. He's a nerd for football, right? And he just knows his stuff. So I'm not questioning if the Rams can win this game. I'm just saying I think Bucs are the better team right now.
And I agree with you, but I think for me this is a 50-50 split kind of game, and because I think I want to get a game up on you, I'm solely picking the Rams here. But with that being said, oh my God, Tom Brady's going to win MVP at age 44. What the hell?
Hey, you want to know why I'm going to win this game over you? I'm going to tell you why. Tom Brady's never played in LA, and he's still got to do his stuff and win everywhere. He first quarterback to win Super Bowl at home. Now he's got to win in every city. You're doomed.
You know, maybe. So, honestly, this one's a toss-up for me. Like, this one can really go either way. Like, I honestly want to give the edge for everything you've said. I want to give the edge to the Buccaneers, but because one, I want to gain a game out of spite. In addition to that, I really, really, really need the Rams to lose as many games as possible. So I'm going to be cheering and screaming and stomping my feet for the Bucs as much as I can. I think this is going to be a banger matchup.
It's a cool matchup.
It always seems like the Rams are always kind of doing some head-scratching shit in every single game, besides the times when they play Cardinals. Kind of like look at this weird punt bullshit thing that they did this last week. But with that being said, I am picking the Rams solely because I want to gain a game. I believe the Bucs will win, but for sake of the picks, I'm going to go Rams.
Sure. I'll put you as the Rams. Why not? I'll make sure to put free win for Sanders right next to it.
Sure. You're going to be eating that shit, and I'm going to be really sad because they're going to be 3-0. So are the Cardinals. And then the 49ers are probably going to be winning. There's going to be 3 fucking undefeated teams in the AFC West 3 weeks in the season. I'm going to blow my brains out.
Okay, so my next pick for this one, actually, you know what? I want to cover Monday night first. So I'll give you Sunday night first. Packers, 49ers. Go for it.
So the Packers
my bad. Packers and a team that doesn't exist in the NFC West yet, according to Cardinals fans. So I had to go with the inside joke for our Cardinals listeners. Continue.
Right. So what the 49ers have showed so far this year hasn't been extraordinary by any means, but I mean they're getting the job done.
Not gonna lie, I don't like their win against the Eagles. That was a shitty win. But exactly. I mean, dub's a dub.
Defense played well. I was impressed with their defense. But also, I don't know how much of that was poor play calling on the Eagles' hand. I think that definitely played a part. Granted, they literally threw a 91-yard pass and ended the drive with 0 points. Like, how do you do that? With that being said, the Packers finally showed, and I shouldn't say finally showed, it's 2 weeks in, and, Aaron Rodgers' classic, relax, we're going to be okay, kind of came into fruition last night, because we saw the Packers, and I know it was against the Lions, but we saw the Packers come out in the second half last night and show that, hey, we're still the team we were last year. We saw Aaron Rodgers come out and show, hey, I'm still the quarterback in the MVP I was last year. To a point in the game last night on second and third down, Rodgers was a perfect 16 for 16, 204 yards and 2 touchdown passes. That is so insane. Like that's so incredibly. How do you stop that? Like if your quarterback is being that efficient, especially on second and third down,
you don't.
Like,
by the way,
that's so tough. And I believe the 49ers are a good team. They have a very well built roster. But just something about them, they're not a contender to me. maybe they're a playoff team. Yes, they're 2-0 right now, but health with that team concerns me going down the road. But that doesn't have really any relevance to this week. With that being said, I believe the Packers are going to get back on track, and they're going to continue to do what they do and what they did last year. And I think I'm going to give them the win here.
Bro, I'm rolling my eyes so far back into my head. Okay. Want to know why? Because you picked the Packers to beat the 49ers. And I'm doing the same thing, too. We're both beating the Packers. And I'm rolling my eyes so far back in my head. Because, bro, the 49ers own the Packers. When's the last time the Packers beat Kyle Shanahan?
Seems like the entire NFC West kind of owns the Packers.
But I'm being for real, though. The last two primetime games, the Packers have gotten owned by them. They got owned by them in the NFC Championship. I cannot remember a time when Matt LaFleur, or just the Packers in general, beat the 49ers when Kyle Shanahan was the head coach. It sails past my head. So, yeah, we're both picking the Packers here because we both have the same agreements as that, we're not impressed with their wins. We're not impressed with, the first week wasn't bad, but, this last week, 17-11 against the Eagles, bad. Jimmy G looked really off last week. It just doesn't look great for the 49ers. But like I said, dub's a dub. They're 2-0. Packers, I picked Green Bay because I like their quarterback more. But, man, you know what? If/when the Packers are getting stomped on Sunday night, don't say I didn't tell y'all. Monday night game. I wanted to take this one. Because the more I think about it, the more I'm actually really excited for this game. I'm really excited to watch Eagles, Cowboys. This was always a matchup 10 years ago that, as a kid, excuse me for a second. As a kid, I thought was fun to watch. It was never one I cared about. I liked typically rooting for the Eagles to beat Tony Romo because I was one of those people who hated Tony Romo. Not because I actually hated Tony Romo, but because of the logo on his helmet. And I am now wiser in my age to realize Tony Romo is and always was a decent quarterback. There's a reason why he had the most fourth quarter comebacks when he was playing because he was great. And they never had a defense, so he always had to make a comeback, but that's another story for another time. And now we got Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts. That's an exciting set of offenses to watch, in my opinion. And the Dallas defense, let's face it, has improved lately. I think what's going to be big here is how well do each teams provide on their balance. I think both of these are balanced teams. I think neither I would call offensive or defensive teams. I think both have shown in the first 2 weeks that maybe not the Eagles. Well, yes, the Eagles because they scored a ton of points against the Falcons. They've kind of shown that.
Also, the Falcons were the worst team in the league next to the Jags.
Yeah, well, that's why I say yeah. They've shown both teams have shown to be able to hang. I would say. Yeah. They had a bad loss against the 49ers, but they've shown a balance in their rosters, and there's nothing on their rosters that I would say this is how they're going to win or this is how they're going to win. I think it's a combination for the Cowboys of Prescott playing well. Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard went off for 198 yards together this last weekend, by the way. That's pretty dang good. And despite 4 starters injured on defense, they made some sick plays against Justin Herbert. And they got some sacks on him, too. 4 defensive starters missing. A Cowboys defense that we've always thought was terrible. Missing 4 starters on defense and still getting the job done. I think this is a solid roster for Dallas. I think they're improved with Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator. They finally have a real defensive coordinator. I like this Cowboys team. I don't love them. I like them enough to think they'd go 9-8 or something. And I kind of think the same about the Eagles, that they'd go 9-8. I don't think this is a shit show division like we saw last year. But it's not like any of these guys are barn burners. So the fact that I view both of these teams as 9-8, 10-7 realm, and they're playing on Monday Night Football together, I'm excited to watch that. 2 even-leveled teams. Now that I've said this, one team's going to dominate the other, and it's going to be terrible. That being said, this is in Jerry World on Monday night. Jalen Hurts is going to be playing under massive pressure, and Dak Prescott's been there, done that before. So I got Dallas winning this one.
Yeah, honestly, I think And it's not necessarily that I'm picking Dallas here. It's more that I'm picking against the Eagles. What the Eagles did this last Sunday
Dreadful.
versus the 40, yeah, it was bad, man. Like, the only thing that really excites me about this Eagles team, and you know, color me wrong, because I didn't like Jalen Hurts coming out. He lost his job to Tua at Alabama, and I really don't like Tua. So
it's college. It's different.
Right. It's very different. So, but Jalen Hurts has come out in the NFL, and he's shown that he can hang, man. When I watched him play the Cardinals last year, I was very, very impressed with the way he played. And he's
you were
come
almost
out and
scared is what happened.
Yeah, no, for real. And he's come out and he's started this year strong. And it's a shame. And his offensive line's been protecting him super well too. And I think that's another big thing that we need to take into consideration with Jalen Hurts' success. Through 2 games, the Philadelphia Eagles have only given up 3 quarterback hits. So if you're going to protect Jalen like that, he's going to develop really well, and he's going to become a pretty good quarterback in this league. That being said, I really don't like much of that Eagles roster. I really don't like their coach. And now when I look at the Cowboys, I believe their roster is better. I believe their weapons are better, but I hate their coach. I love Dak and everything. I'm giving it the edge to the Cowboys here. I think this game could be a banger just because it's going to be a divisional game, and it's going to be in prime time. I don't really care either way about this game, but I am going to go Cowboys here just simply because from what I saw from the Eagles last week was oof.
And I want to say shout out to our primetime schedule this year. It's worked out.
It's been good.
Like, even last night wasn't terrible. Like, I understand the score was bad, but, like, the Lions were ahead going into the half.
Mm-hmm.
And that provides excitement. Now, when a team pulls away in the fourth quarter, you know what, that's fine. Right? It wasn't like it was a Packers stomp the whole time. And
now the thing that really kind of was the death knell for the Lions, too, is right after the Packers scored, I don't quite remember what the score was. I believe it was
probably 28-17.
Yeah, it was 28-17. It started pouring rain, and the very first snap of that drive, Goff fumbles the snap, and Packers recover. They go and score again, and that's what really made that game look like it was a lot worse than it actually was. Granted, the Lions got shut out in the second half, so they obviously didn't make very good halftime adjustments. Or they just kind of went in with the same game plan because they're like, oh, it's working. We're leading by 3 points. Blah, 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 blah. And it didn't work out. But, yeah.
So anyways, we both picked Cowboys for Monday night. Shout out to the Shout out to the primetime scheduling. It's been fun. I've been genuinely shocked how fun, these games been. Even
if it's not super power football teams like we saw with Washington and the Giants, that game was ugly too. There was parts of that game where it was ugly NFL football, but it was entertaining. That's all I care about. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes ugly NFL football is awesome. Look at the Cardinals and Seahawks 6-6 tie. As a fan, probably the most frustrating game. One of the most frustrating games I've ever fucking watched.
It was so funny. I'm sorry. It was hilarious.
For the rest of the nation, I'm sure that was fucking hilarious. It was probably the worst game of all time.
I mean, it was, I'm not going to lie, it was a really boring game to watch as a fan. But, the events that happened in overtime, by that point, as a casual fan, if you're still watching, you just want the game over. And the fact that it's not ending makes you laugh neither of them can do it. This is hilarious. Dude, great time. Great Sunday night. I will remember that forever. I was in college watching that in my apartment with my 2 roommates. But yeah, even this Thursday's game, Panthers Texans, I think should be at least decent. Maybe the Panthers stomp them, but I think it should be decent at least, which is weird to say because we said Texans would be really, really bad.
I think the Panthers are going to stomp them, but
you know what?
I think if Tyrod was playing, it'd be a different story, but I think they'd get stopped.
If they do. And we would also like to say that we are going to delay our free jersey giveaway announcement until this Thursday. We're going to announce it on a Thursday night game. So check out for that. We're going to be picking our winner today, like we said. So we're going to pick our winner today. We'll announce it on Thursday. And whoever the lucky winner is, we'll have you send us your address. When I say address, just the place where we need to send the jersey. We're obviously going to buy it for you and not. So, yeah. Anything else?
Don't worry, we're not creeps. We're not going to stock you or anything like that. We promise.
I mean, I didn't say. All right. Anyways, is there anything else you got for the weekend?
Excuse me. No, not really. I think we got another good week of NFL matchups, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a really fun season so far. We've got a long way to go.
All right, we got under an hour 30 again, so good job on us for speeding things up. So, to those out there that are listening, thank you so much for listening. Like I said, we'll announce the jersey giveaway on Thursday. I hope your team wins this weekend, unless, of course, they're playing mine or Pardue's. Have a wonderful football week 3.